Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into a fascinating chapter from an ancient text, the Book of Mormon, specifically 2 Nephi chapter 25. And what we're going to do is explore how its author, a prophet named Nephi, tackles this really mysterious subject, prophecy, and basically tries to make it crystal clear for everyone.
So let's just start with this puzzle right here. Prophecy is famously complex, right? It's usually veiled in symbols and metaphors. So why would a prophet intentionally just strip all of that away and make it super simple? Well, that's the core question this chapter really tries to answer.
All right, first up, a problem with prophecy. And the problem is trying to understand the words of Isaiah. See, it all kicks off with this communication breakdown. The author Nephi, he sees that his people are just really struggling to understand the words of a much older, super revered prophet named Isaiah.
So the problem is pretty clear. The text says Isaiah's prophecies were, quote, hard for many of my people to understand. These prophecies, which were a cornerstone of their tradition, just weren't connecting. And Nephi explains why. He says they don't get the manner of prophesying among the Jews. You know, that unique cultural and linguistic style that made Isaiah's words so powerful back in his day. It was full of poetic parallels and metaphors that were really tied to a specific time and place.
And this really sets up this central conflict of the whole chapter. On one hand, you've got Isaiah's words. Beautiful, for sure, but really hard to get if you're not initiated. And on the other hand, you have Nephi's goal, which is to prophesy with plainness so that his people can actually learn from it. He's choosing clarity over complexity, period.
And this quote, "For behold, my soul delighteth in plainness unto my people, that they may learn." This is really the heart of the chapter. It's not just some stylistic choice, it's his core motivation. Nephi genuinely finds joy in being clear. His goal isn't to sound all mysterious or profound, it's just to be understood. He wants to lay out a prophecy so direct that, as he puts it, no man can err. So what does this plain prophecy look like in practice? We're about to see the sequence. Instead of all that poetic imagery, Nephi lays out a direct chronological timeline of future events. He's basically trading symbolism for a clear, step-by-step sequence. And this timeline, wow, it lays out the key events with incredible boldness. First, it starts with something they all know, a personal event, his family leaving Jerusalem around 600 BC. Then, he maps out the coming of a Messiah, not just sometime, but 600 years later. He talks about the Messiah's crucifixion, that he'll be rejected and killed, then his resurrection after 3 days. And the timeline doesn't even stop there. It goes on to predict another destruction of Jerusalem and eventually the scattering and then restoration of the Jewish people once they believe. And what's so wild here is the specificity. 600 years. Nephi doesn't just say, sometime in the future. No, he pinpoints the Messiah's arrival at exactly 600 years from when his father left Jerusalem. This is a huge part of his plainness strategy, using a heart number to just get rid of any ambiguity. And just in case the number wasn't specific enough, he then drops a name. The text says, "His name shall be Jesus Christ, the Son of God." This is the ultimate act of plainness, right? It's not a riddle, it's not some vague title, it's the specific name of the prophesied Messiah. There's literally no room for interpretation here. Okay, so let's get into the why behind all this. This prophecy isn't just about predicting the future. It's all about law, grace, and Christ. It's actually designed to explain a huge shift in religious thinking, a move from one system of belief to another. This is really the theological core of the whole chapter. So here's what Nephi argues. He says, look, we keep the law of Moses. That's step one. But, and this is the key, that law is meant to point our souls to Christ. It's like a giant signpost. And for that reason, once Christ comes, the law becomes, in his words, dead unto us. Its job is done. And then step 4, we are made alive in Christ because of our faith. It's a total reframing of why they're doing what they're doing. And this all leads to one of the most famous verses from the entire text. It says, "For we know that it is by grace that we are saved, after all we can do." This is his attempt to resolve that age-old tension between works and faith. It's saying, yeah, your personal effort, all we can do, is absolutely necessary. But ultimate salvation, that comes through divine grace, that unearned help from God. This is the big theological destination that his whole plain prophecy was designed to lead us to.
All right, so this brings us to a final, really critical question. What's the purpose of the record itself? I mean, why write all this down? Why go to all the trouble of engraving this prophecy on metal plates just to preserve it for who knows how long?
Well, the author's motivation is crystal clear, and it all comes down to one word: persuasion. They write to persuade their children to believe in Christ. They write so they can be reconciled to God. It's all about making sure their kids know where to go for remission of sins. It's about convincing future generations of the true Messiah. The whole project is basically an act of legacy, meant to stand as a permanent testimony.
So when you boil it all down, after all the history, all the prophecies, all the theology, it comes down to what the text calls the right way. And what is that? It's a direct, uncomplicated path. Believe in Christ, don't deny him, and worship him. That's it. This is the ultimate goal of his whole quest for plainness.
So the big takeaway here is the author's central strategy. It's all about using plainness to create a clear and unmistakable prophetic message. He makes this very conscious pivot away from complex, traditional prophecy and moves toward direct, simple, and just unmistakable language. The whole goal is to get rid of confusion and make sure the message is understood by everyone, especially the generations to come.
And that really leaves us with a final thought to chew on. The author is betting everything on clarity. He believes that plainness is the absolute best way to make a message last through time. So the question for us is, how does the simplicity of a message, its plainness, ultimately shape its power and its ability to endure? Does it help or does it hurt?